Dynamic Women Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Linda Kreter celebrate the thoughts and opinions of magnetic, spirited, and influential women. Each week, bold, brilliant women spark vigorous conversations on the complexities of life, love, and happiness. Now here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Linda Kreter.
Hey ladies, this is Sandra Beck and I'm here with Linda Kreter and this is Dynamic Women Talk Radio. And we are visiting today with Cathy Kravfe from Texas, Frankie from Toronto, Ontario. We've got Alex from Nigeria. And then, of course, I'm your host, Sandra Beck, and Linda Kreter is coming for you from Washington, D.C. Now, we're talking today about initiative. And initiative is something that I think you either have or you don't. You know, when I would teach swimming, there were kids who always took initiative, kids who would pick up stuff, kids who would volunteer. And I don't know if initiative is innate or we can build it in our families, our friends, our coworkers, our children. I'm going to go to Cathy Kravfe first and ask her, Cathy, what do you know about initiative?
One of the most powerful forces in the universe, because I like what First John says. We love because he loved us first. That is, God loved us first. And even that example you just pulled, Sandra, of, you know, anytime you're with a group of teenagers, some of them will, some of them take the initiative and some won't. But the ones that do often have a deep sense of their purpose and the fact that they're cared for and loved. And I just think initiating love is the heart of all initiative.
So I'm going to go to Frankie Picasso next. Frankie, initiative.
You know, that's a really great question. Is it innate or is it something that we can learn? I think for many people, it is innate. And for other people, initiative can be learned if they have the right hook. So for some people, they have to have a reason for doing something. And other people, you know, it's just innate. They're going to take initiative. They want to be a leader. They want things in their life, and they're going to go for it.
Alex, going over to Nigeria.
Well, I think that initiative is probably maybe something, well, it's probably innate, but I also think that it's also something that we're probably taught maybe from when we're young, right? Because I remember growing up as a child and my mom would say, you know, you need to take initiative. And I think it really is personal leadership in a sense, right? Knowing that you have to be you have the capacity to take charge, right? Or take a decision or, you know, without having to wait for somebody else to tell you what to do. And I think that, you know, for a lot of us, maybe growing up, it's probably how we've been raised. I guess we probably teach our children or we were taught how to sort of take charge or be in control of our own space or personal mind or, you know, provide solutions. So I think it's innate, but I also think it's probably, you know, I think we're probably taught when we're growing up.
Well, we could definitely encourage it because I remember always telling my staff, and I still do, like, take more initiative at work. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So take more initiative at work. But I think initiative is a combination of confidence. And also the environment has to be an environment that is conducive for you to take risk, take chances. Like, I think it's a twofold thing, especially, you know, as an entrepreneur, I work really hard in creating an environment that fosters growth, that fosters free thinking. Like, the last thing I want is my staff to be shut down because then it puts all the responsibility on me to think of everything. Linda Kreter.
I agree with you. And I have this simple test that I ask people. It's not really a test. It's just sort of a discernment tool I use. When you get to work in the morning or when you're at home, do you do the hard thing first or do you do the easy things first? Now, I have found that those who have the most initiative tend to do the hard thing first and get it out of the way. You aren't faced with obstructions to doing the hard thing first. You really want to do that. But I also think that internally, with the innate versus the learned, sometimes you're just plain old impatient. And I'm one of them sometimes where I see a solution and I want to make it happen. And I do know that things aren't going to happen unless we take action. And so thinking about something isn't going to make it work. So I think it's a combination of innate, learned, and I agree with you on the staff thing. But I find that people can become better if they feel like they are free to make mistakes and be accepted from doing it. But taking initiative, I love people who I have to almost hold back versus kick them in the butt.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest things is having that environment where people are free to grow and change and have that possibility, because then it's very encouraging. Frankie Picasso.
You know, you guys, both Linda and Sandra, you make a really good point. But we're talking about two apples and oranges in a way.
Mm-hmm.
We have initiative in the workplace.
Right.
And we have innate initiative in the person itself. So you have leaders and followers, and you also have leaders that you can teach people leadership in a workplace, and you can encourage people to use their own initiative in a workplace. But if they don't have it, you know, can we teach them to use it? Now, like you said, Linda, do you do the hard things first? I always do the hard thing first because I like to get it out of the way, always. And then the rest of your day is easy, right? It was a breeze. So, you know, but Sandra, and your point about an entrepreneurs are natural risk takers, they're natural leaders, they're natural, you know, people who have initiative, because in order to build a business, you have to put and make your own time. Nobody's clocking you in from 9 to 5. You're probably there from, you know, I know you're there from 4 a.m. to midnight. So you have to take initiative. I mean, it's a prerequisite of being an entrepreneur.
I agree with that, but I also believe that I am grateful over the years of having learned that there are those who are worker bees, and they are very good at what they do. And sometimes when you have a blend of leaders and followers, those who feel safer in a more bordered, boundaried environment, it makes for a wonderful working relationship. So initiative can work in various degrees, and so that there isn't a right or a wrong. It's just the environment that you're trying to create requires a certain number of people with initiative and a certain number of people who will be the worker bees and get things done. Without them, we'd be lost.
Absolutely.
Alex, can we hear you?
Okay. Well, I really feel like every one of us should have just a little bit of that, you know, should take a little bit of initiative, whether we're in a leadership position or whether we're followers or we're workers or co-employees or whatever it is. I think at some point we all have that time, you know, there calls for a situation where you need to be able to take decisions, and sometimes you can't wait on your boss or your employer or your partner or whatever it is to take that decision. And I guess that's why it's so important that we all need to at some point be able to sort of harness, you know, our level of initiative and how we're able to just basically have that capacity to take decisions. I think it's so important. A lot of the times, you know, I've come across situations where I knew that someone could have done something, but they did nothing because they were waiting for me to say something or to take the lead or to follow up. And that can be pretty frustrating. So I think that it's important, even for my child, you know, even for, you know, even as parents, you know, sometimes, yes, you know that there are routines and things that should be done, but just in case, what if, you know, you're not available at that time to take that decision? Can somebody else just pull up their boots and decide, you know, take action, right? So I think at some point we all really need to harness how to take initiative.
We have a fantastic new sponsor to share with you today, and we welcome FabFitFun. FabFitFun is a seasonal subscription box with full-size beauty, fitness, fashion, and lifestyle products. Imagine opening your own FabFitFun box each season with brands like Michael Stars, Trina Turk, Moroccan Oil, Dr. Brandt, Juice Beauty, Zoya, Beaker, and Chris Nations. Celebrity fans include Martina McBride, Ashley Tisdale, Bethany Frankel, Kyle Richards, and so many more. Each box retails for $49.99, but always has a value over $200. The fall box will be released in September, and they sell out fast. Don't miss out. Check out www.fabfitfun.com and use the code DYNAMIC to save $10 off your first box, making it only $39.99. Again, that's fabfitfun.com and use the code DYNAMIC. Every FabFitFun box has a value of over $200, and it's the perfect way to treat yourself with the most amazing products of the season. Become a member today and get your first box for just $39.99 when you use code DYNAMIC at fabfitfun.com. With FabFitFun, you get a box of full-size products 4 times a year. FabFitFun with code DYNAMIC. Order yours today.
Alex, I love the way, this is Cathy, I love the way you're calling initiative as a personal leadership characteristic. I love the way you brought your kids into this conversation, because I think it's so important for us to remember when we're talking about whether initiative can be learned or whether it's innate. As mothers, we have so much influence in the kind of initiative and confidence our children will have. One very wise friend told me early in our marriage and our child raising that I didn't want to teach my kids to have self-esteem. What I wanted to teach them was to have confidence. And so at our house, we always say you learn confidence by doing what is hard and knowing what is true. And I think that's why sometimes we see it and we think it's an innate quality in someone when really they just had the benefit of being surrounded by people who were wise and taught them not to be afraid, to step into their fear, make mistakes, and dust themselves off and keep pressing on. So I don't know, that I feel like I'm lecturing. I'm going to shut up for a minute.
Cathy, you are just so sweet. I just adore you so much. And Alex too. Alex was talking about, can't somebody else make a decision, please? And they can. Like Alex and I are partners on a book, and I'll wait for her, she'll wait for me, because we had a partnership that said, let's not make a decision unilaterally. We're going to talk about it. And I know that Sandra and you and Linda are partners, and all of us are partners on something else and different. But, if you have an understanding, make that decision. If I'm not around, then you can do it. But other times, people are always waiting for someone to be the leader and to make the decision for them. I don't have a problem making a decision. It's just, it was an understanding. Does that make sense?
It does, Frankie. This is Linda. I think that when we're waiting for others to look for us to make the clue or the cue, I think that we have set them up that way. And I think it's back to what Cathy said about setting the expectations. So whether it's at home, tiny little example, my children were fine about taking their dishes from the table, but they put them right on a counter right over the dishwasher.
Yes. And my husband does it every day.
And I would say, are you serious? You're only handle it once. I believe in Ohio. Only handle it once. So when you carry it over and rinse it, put it in the dishwasher. And I just laughed because I just looked at them from time to time and would say, do you think it's going to leap itself into the dishwasher? Because it's not. So an initiative, it can be so many things. It can be motivation. It can be actions that are taken instead of just thinking about it. It can be creativity to come up with an idea that someone else doesn't have. But the funny thing about the definition, if you look it up, it talks about doing something first when others aren't doing anything. And so there's some serious aspects of this. I remember being at a beach one time at the ocean, and somebody was struggling in the water, and no one was moving. And I was the smallest person on that beach, and my children were there, and we looked, and this person is going down. There was no choice. You had to take the initiative. This person was not going to make it if someone didn't go out and save them. And so I went after them, even though it was a scary thing. And I think that's... We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Golf is a good way to supplement your fitness program, but watch out for golf injuries. The most common occur in the low back, elbows, shoulders, hands, and wrists, and are defined as either cumulative from overuse or acute traumatic injuries. The impact and stress of the repetitive motion of the swing is sometimes hard on the muscles and joints. The Mayo Clinic says it's important to consider ways to reduce your risk of golf injuries. They recommend that you warm up first. Be sure to start slowly, work up to your desired level of play. Strengthen your muscles to protect your joints and reduce your risk of injury and build up your endurance. Focus on flexibility. and keep your muscles pliable, strong, and flexible. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond. If you're a fan of Fitness Minute, like us on Facebook.
This is TogiNet Radio, a platform for produced live talk and contemporary programming for passionate achievers. The TogiNet Radio Networks reaches over 10 million like-minded listeners each month with on-demand podcasts that can be downloaded onto your smartphone, tablet, or computer so you can listen and grow through content you love anytime, any place. If you have a passion or message you want to share, we have proven steps to train you to impact listeners around the world. Connect with us to learn more. Contact Scott Frazier at 903-787-5880. That's 903-787-5880. And Scott will share proven strategies that will help ensure your success. Thank you again for listening to the TogiNet family of live talk radio networks.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Linda Kreter, and we're visiting today with Cathy Kravfe from Texas, Frankie Picasso, Toronto, Ontario, and Alex Okoroji. Alex, what's your city in Nigeria?
Oh. Lagos.
Lagos. Okay, because I feel like you're like the entire nation's
representative, right?
I think she is. She's got an award.
You must represent, Canada. Alex, you must represent the whole area. We're talking about instilling confidence today and how to instill confidence so that people can take initiative. And Linda Kreter, you had said something quickly on break. What was that 4 string of words? You're like, the only one I remember was gumption.
Action, gumption, creativity, doing things first when others don't move.
Okay, because we're gonna deconstruct that. What was the first one?
Action.
So we got action and then gumption.
Mm-hmm.
What's gumption? Anybody got a definition for gumption?
Chutzpah.
Yeah, chutzpah, guts.
Yep.
Okay,
It's courage. It's kind of like bold courage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like jumping in where others fear.
That's number 4. Exactly.
So how do we build this? How do we build this in a child, in a coworker? Is it something that we can just give I'm just going to go to Linda Kreter because I'm fumbling it badly. Go ahead.
I really think that gumption can be taught, but it's by giving chances in an environment that is safe. In the beginning with children, you provide the gumption and the acts in a place where they know that they will succeed. In others, as you get older or in a professional environment, to me, it says that I trust you. So go ahead. I know you are capable of this. It's believing in someone before they may believe in themselves, but they have enough experience to have watched you so that they are aware what to do. Does that make sense?
I love that. Believing in someone before they believe in themselves, that is all of that is just a very profound statement.
Yes, it is. Yes, I agree with Linda. I mean, for anyone to be able to find courage, you really have to believe in them first, right? You have to make them understand that you trust them and that whatever decision they make, right? It's not about right or wrong, but it's about just them taking action and that you support them, right? So I think a lot of times why people are afraid to take initiative is because they're worried about failing or making a mistake or, taking the wrong approach or, taking the wrong action. And when people feel like whatever action they take, irrespective of what the result is, that that everything would still be fine, or that they would still be okay, you'll be cool with it. I think that it would sort of encourage them to take more action. I think that happens with kids, right? Kids may not take a decision and may not take action because they're worried about just doing the wrong thing, right? Or mommy or daddy getting upset. But if they know that whatever decision they take or whatever action they take, that somehow mommy or daddy would still be proud of them or be happy that they at least took action, then they will learn how to take more action and take more leadership. And I think that also works with, our coworkers.
I totally agree with you, Alex. Perfect example. And Linda, Cathy, when you first came on the show and we said, yeah, you can do it, and the gumption that you had to do it because you just kind of jumped in and we said, it's okay if you fail, it's okay. You're not going to fail. We're going to support you. And you embraced it and you're fantastic at it. And I think that environment that the supportive environment allows people to take risk and to take initiative and to do what you do best. So, yeah.
I just love that whole idea and I think it's so important. And somebody mentioned the fear of failure. I know at our house, sometimes we had this thing, especially when the kids were real little. I'm not going to say where they got this. Okay. But they might have had a tendency to think they had to be perfect. Okay. Mm-hmm. Just kind of happened at our house. And so we developed this thing called trying counts, and we would just encourage each other. Really, I think Dave and I probably needed it more than they did. And we would say, well, trying counts, we tried. So we're going to try again tomorrow and keep pressing in. And that freed our family up so much because instead of being afraid to fail, we were encouraging each other. Okay, so maybe it didn't work out the way you wanted it to, but you tried, and that's a step in the right direction.
I agree, Cathy. This is Linda. I think that trying is so important because trying is how we learn. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And if children see that they can try and it works, that's great. If they see that it didn't work, what a teachable moment. It's wonderful because I think that when you're raised to give your best and do your best, if you know that you've done that, you've got the confidence then that maybe you could do it better the next time. There's nothing wrong with always growing and learning. In fact, I hope we always grow and learn as we evolve. I'd like to be growing and learning at 95. But I think that we know that encouragement is so important. But I also think that it's easy to discourage people. And so I think we have to be aware that it's really important to not discourage. And should you ever discourage inadvertently, because of the situation or the stresses involved, it's important that you correct it and teach and coach from that moment.
Well, and I think that correction, the way you correct is so important because when we get into this pass-fail mentality, and one of the things, since I run a tech company, creativity is a must. And I don't want to squelch creativity at all. Everybody gets to wear what they want to work. They drink and eat what they want. They set their own hours as long as the work gets done and it gets done, in a good quality manner or a high quality manner. But one of the things I found is I don't use the word fail or I don't use the word wrong in my company. I don't use it in my personal life either because it has so much weight, so much emotion. Like that's like the heart squashing, vocabulary, because when somebody comes to me and it's done differently, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's a failure. In fact, some of the wrong things that we have done, one of my best-selling softwares came out of a big old mistake. And, when we use those negative terms, we do crush creativity. So when I have to correct someone, I'll say, let me show you a different way of doing that. Let me show you something different. Or let's try this, or let's see what happens with this. Because especially in technology, you're creating something that has never before existed in human history. So ergo, how could it be wrong? Frankie?
Yeah, absolutely. I love companies that give awards for innovation. I think that that's so cool. And I love when you bring people to a team who know nothing about what it is that you're doing and yet throw out ideas because they don't know it can't be done. And like you said, somebody maybe it was in my world, it'd be a huge mistake. Oh, you can't do that. But you know what? It sparks the innovation in somebody else and says, hey, you know what? Yeah. Maybe we can do it like that. And so that's really cool. That's a really cool way to do it. Dennis Waitley says, failure is not our undertaker, it's our teacher. And I think that's a really great way to think about it too. Linda's, said that many times throughout the show about these teachable moments when you quote unquote fail. I kind of always like it when I fail. Like usually the very first radio show I ever do, it fails in some way, shape, or form. Something doesn't go off, and you're put in a position of either scrambling or going, "Oh, how am I going to fix this?" And it creates something, in me anyway, to be creative and innovative, and how am I going to pull this off? And it's a fun feeling. Maybe that's part of initiative. I don't know.
I was going to say, I think that is part of initiative. Initiative is creatively finding a way to fix things or to create new ways of doing things. I used to love rewarding employees for new ways of doing things that nobody had thought about, that they were very hesitant to even share. And we did it very, very boldly. We took a $50 bill and we clapped like the Cie Cie's clap, for the birthday thing. And we walked down the hall, and there were lots of employees, and everybody knew that somebody had done something great and it was being recognized, but it was always something that was new or different or that no one else had thought of. And the most wonderful moments that came at work were when somebody said, I don't know if you've thought about this, sort of a timid bring in. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've thought about this, but what about X? I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah. I love how we're able to just sort of create this relationship or this correlation between creativity and initiative. And usually I would say that creativity is kind of like finding an innovative solution to a problem, which is what Linda said. And, using initiative, something Sandra said that basically stuck in my head, which is how there really isn't no right or wrong way to do something, because being creativity is really subjective, right? So I guess that, a lot of it comes right down to trust. Do people, the person you're working with, or, the people, do you trust the other person to take the right, to take whatever decision that they will, and then that sort of like encourages them again to take action. And I wanted to say something about, for example, Frankie had made an example of my relationship with her, and how we do have an understanding, where we have to take decisions together. But that being said, sometimes she goes ahead to take decisions, right? And I'm comfortable with whatever decision she takes, right? And sometimes I go ahead and I just do something and I tell her later, oh, I did this, because at that time we knew that it was important for one of us to take action and not wait for the other. But more often than not, yes, we wait for the other, but then we trust ourselves to the point, we trust ourselves at a level where we know that whatever decision the other person takes, that it will be for the, good, the overall good of the entire project. So I think it's important that trust, be a major factor.
I love that you put it together with other people, because initiative, yes, it's personal and we can take our own initiative, but I think it's wonderful that you're talking about the fact that you have to have trust in others, so which also gives them the foundation to go ahead and have trust in you and to take initiative. Because if you do have that trust, it's a give and take relationship. It's rewarding the fact that you can rely upon one another, and support is so fantastic. I love the fact that initiative really means so many different parts that we've discussed today. So we are talking today with Alex Okoroji from Nigeria, Cathy Kravfe from Texas, Frankie Picasso from Toronto, Sandra Beck in LA, and I'm in DC. I think that we are finding that there's so many quotes about initiative. I'm going to give you one before we go into a short break, and we will resume this conversation after the break. This one's by George Eliot. It will never rain roses. When we want to have more roses, we must plant more roses. In other words, if you don't do it, who is going to do it? We're going on a short break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Dynamic Women Talk Radio. We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
Keep a secret? Apparently most women can't. According to a London study, on average, a woman can only keep a secret for about 32 minutes. 1 in 10 women quizzed said they'd had a falling out with a friend over letting secrets slip. Plastic surgery, people involved in dalliances, canoodling, and relationship problems topped the list shared in Hugger Mugger. Do Britons gossip more than Americans? Probably not, but they certainly read more tabloids. What's a word for the enjoyment of reading about another's troubles? Schadenfreude. A quidnunc is another word for a gossip, and Alice Roosevelt Longworth said it best at a dinner party. If you can't say something good about someone, sit right here by me.
It's words you never.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Osteoporosis affects 10 million people in the U.S. and is described as a generalized loss of bone density, causing skeletal weakness. When the amount of bone falls below a certain threshold, fractures occur with little or no trauma. There are 206 bones in your body, and every one is crucial to staying active and pain-free as you age. Exercise is one of the most beneficial things you can do for your bones. Choose weight-bearing exercises, especially weightlifting, to keep your bones strong and to prevent bone loss. To improve bone density, the key is to keep your feet on the ground, such as walking, running, or aerobic dance. The impact of your heel hitting the floor sends a vibration through your skeleton that stimulates cell growth in the bones. Exercise helps prevent bone loss. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond. Like us on Facebook.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with our dynamic women today. Cathy Kravfe from Texas, Frankie Picasso, Toronto, Ontario, Linda Kreter, Washington, D.C., and Alex Okoroji, Lagos, Nigeria. Now, we were talking a little bit about how confidence and initiative and fear of failure all work together, and I want to talk a little bit more about fear, because I always thought of myself as a very fearless chick. You know, I can do lots of things, but when my mom died, when I went through the divorce, when I went through a foreclosure, like I had to close my business and start a new one, all of this happened in a very short span of time, and my confidence was at an all-time low, and I started becoming afraid of everything. It could be a bump in the night, and I have like military grade security in my house. So, you know, nobody's going to cross one of these, you know, laser strips without setting off enough alarms to wake up every coyote in Southern California. So I shouldn't have been filled with so much fear. But the fear begot more fear, and I had trouble sleeping at night, and I had trouble making decisions. And then I kind of bottomed out in my fear bubble popped, and I was left with, what do I do? Do I act, or do I continue to live in fear? And I started getting really weird fears, girls. I was like, when I had to fly, I was afraid, you know, and I fly every month easily. I don't even think about it. So all these things just started to snowball, and I felt like I was drowning. And when I hit rock bottom, and then it was like there was nowhere to go but up. But that was really interesting for me and a little frightening to see how far the human spirit can go from being supremely confident to afraid to step out my door. Frankie Picasso.
Yeah, Sandra, I'm sorry for that. And it's a completely natural event that happened. You know, your mom passed away and anxiety filled that void unconsciously. You know, the unconscious void and the divorce and all of that. We as human beings, we kind of fear fear, we fear change, and we fear success. Like those are our three main fears that come. But your fear turned into anxiety, and it became more than just a fear. And your unconscious, you know, took over and started to play games with you. But you know, you were able to rein it back because you are a confident person. That's your natural state. And in grief, you know, things happen to us that we don't even understand and expect. And one of those things is, you know, an anxiety that comes from nowhere, or phobia or fear that comes out, you know, seemingly out of the blue, and lives with us for a little while until you kick it in the pants and tell it to go away. Some people can't. You can, because that's who you are. And you have, you know, a very rational mind and can see things through. So I think that you know, I remember when my mom died, somebody asked me for my phone number, and I gave them a phone number I had when I was 10. Now, I don't even remember that phone number. If you asked me today, I couldn't tell you what it is. But in that moment, it took me back to being at home, being a kid.
Wow. Cathy from East Texas.
You know, I really I really always love to hear what Frankie's going to say in these moments. I caught the fears we have of change and success, and I didn't catch that first one.
Fear of failure. Yeah, failure, change, and success.
Okay, those are such good big categories for all the fears that we face. And I think sometimes our mind plays tricks on us. And I believe, of course, because of my Christian perspective, that we get attacked by forces that are outside of us that want to lie to us and tell us that we're awful. But I'm so proud of you, Sandra, and proud of myself when it happens to me, because there are times when we just have to do what we know is right, what we really know we want to do. And we absolutely do not have the energy, the emotional energy to step into that and do it. And I loved what Frankie said, because it reminded me how good she is at counseling people and encouraging them to go ahead and address their fears and find the help we need. And of course, I always turn to other women. I have so many strong female friends that are just warriors on my behalf. And I also love it when I have friends. I have a handful of women that I pray with. And so those are some of the things I do. But I love the fact that you began this segment by saying we all have those moments where we're emotionally wiped out. And so that's when we really find out what our character is as far as taking the initiative.
Isn't that the truth? And I think what Sandra was talking about, we've all experienced when we are being attacked, when we're besieged is the word I like to use. When I feel like I'm being besieged and so many things are going wrong at the same time, I tend to think, all right, I must be doing something right, because I wouldn't be triggering all of these kinds of reactions or responses unless I'm touching things that I am creating change with. So I'd like to shift this a little bit, because sometimes I find, I don't want to say I become reckless, but I become fearless. And I will take a look at a situation and I will say, what is there that I have to lose? So why not take that chance? Why not reach out? Why not do that sort of thing? So I can react in two ways. I can pull in, like Sandra said, I can really what I call turtle, or I can just stand up really tall and straight and say, honestly, I've taken a look at this. Strategically, it seems like I don't have anything to lose, but I have something I might be able to gain. And actions always seem to bring that confidence back, whereas pondering or ruminating do not.
Okay, so I wanted to, I've just been thinking about all the amazing things that you all have been saying. Cathy hit something. She did say something about fear, right? And I'm trying to tie how it's so important for us to. Oh, she said something about how there are other women warriors who are basically warriors on her behalf, and I feel like when we sort of experience fear, right, and maybe we're overwhelmed by the challenge that Sandra said. I've been through there was a time this year that I never thought I was going to have a good year, because I had everything that could go wrong, from a miscarriage to losing my website to so many things happening. And I just didn't find the energy to be productive, right? But going from that, it's so important to have a support system. And I'm trying to tie this because having support is so important when we experience fear. When just having amazing women like Frankie and Sandra and just all the other people who just encourage you to step out, right, and to take action and to do what you have to do. And you find out that the year isn't going as bad as I thought it would go. So back to taking initiative. Sometimes sometimes other people need to take initiative on our behalf, right? And taking initiative on our behalf, not necessarily, it might just be having, that push, that little nudge that we need to just step out and take action. So if we experience fear, it's very important to have a support system, to have people who we know can be courageous on our behalf or bossy on our behalf, just so that we can find the energy, right, and the motivation to go back out and be productive.
Well, Alex, we spoke at the end of last year about how we had just motivated so many people to get their businesses going, to get their initiative and their creativity off the charts. And yet, we were in our own heads kind of failing at what we were trying to do, but not feeling, but just, losing momentum. And you were at a very, very low part at the very beginning of the year, just before, March and Women's Independence Day and whatever. But you turned it all around and you won an award, a huge award from your country. You made Richtopia's list of influential women. You've just done so much and gained so much, that came out of your, what do you want to call it? Your humdrum moment or whatever. That's pretty amazing. You must be proud of yourself. Come on. You got a Brag magazine. You are.
Well, I think we're all proud of her, and she's a testament to all of us in what we can do, because I think there's something funny, like when I look at you guys, like I look at your pictures on the screen and I see these successful, powerful, amazing women. And you know what? That's what we see in the media. We see Alex get her award. All you have to do is Google Alex Okoroji award. Mm-hmm. And you'll just see this amazing, successful woman. And, it's funny because I see this woman that was so excited when we both got our kids on Skype. Remember, Alex? Like,
yes.
And Zachy still tells everybody he has a little friend in Nigeria, and he talked to a little boy his age in Nigeria, And that was such a beautiful moment between Alex and I, just as moms, like mom to mom. Or I think of calling Cathy when I was walking in the park and having a meltdown. She's like, let me pray with you. Or coaching with Frankie, or calling up Linda going, I'm going to lose my friggin' mind if I have to answer this question one more time. And all of you guys are so real to me, but the perception in the public is that we are kind of 10 feet tall and bulletproof, and we don't have needs and we don't have failures, because, we don't promote those. And I'm going to go over to Linda Franklin Linda Kreter, because she unglues me a lot. And we are just, women that try really hard. We fly up, we get stuck on the ceiling, and one of us has to pull each other down.
We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
Did you know a dentist invented the first electric chair? Just thinking about going to the dentist makes me feel like I'm headed for death row. What's a word for the fear of a dentist? Odontophobia. Bruxomania is another word for the compulsive grinding of one's teeth. Early toothbrushes were twigs with frayed ends. Toothpaste in a tube was made available to the public in 1892 and was called Dr. Scheffel's Cream Dentifrice. Now Americans buy 14 million gallons of toothpaste every year. In Mexico, the tooth fairy is called the tooth mouse. Half of all Americans say that a smile is the first thing they notice about a person. It's easy to spot a person with a fake smile, otherwise known as an exedesius. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
According to the American Heart Association, cardiovascular disease claims more women's lives than the next 6 causes of death combined. Nearly 500,000 women's lives a year, which is nearly twice as many as all forms of cancer. Cardiovascular disease is mostly preventable, so understanding serious health threats can make a life-saving difference. Exercise and losing weight are the cornerstones of living heart healthy. This is true for women and men. By exercising and keeping your heart rate up for at least 20 minutes, 5 days a week, you are making a positive step forward in keeping your heart healthy. Exercise also helps you lose weight, which is essential when it comes to your heart's health. Remember, if you have too much body fat, especially in your waist area, you're at a higher risk for health problems, whether you're male or female. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond.
Hey, Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Linda, Cathy, Frankie, and Alex, and you can learn more about these dynamic women at dynamicwomentalkradio.com. And today's topic, we're talking about initiative. And one of the things that I know about initiative is if I'm feeling like rah, 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 go, 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 initiative is not a problem. But if I'm like put through life's wood chipper, there's been times in my life where initiative has been really hard to find. And I kind of, as Linda Kreter put it, went into the turtle and holed up in my office, holed up in my compound here. And that was not good. And then I started reaching out to women that I could trust, and that helped. And when I was first starting in radio, I was at a real low point. And Rick, who worked for me, looked at me and he said, San, accept this radio job, accept this radio opportunity. He goes, you're going to be really good. And I'm like, I felt like that girl in Gone with the Wind. I don't know nothing about birth and no radio shows. And he said, just borrow my faith in you until you find your own. And I will never forget that statement. And when I did, obviously I had great success. And then recently I hit a success point where I felt like I couldn't budge. And there was part of me that it was almost like a weight loss plateau, but it was a success plateau. So I reached out to Frankie Picasso, who's on our show today, and said, Frankie, will you coach me? Because every time I do a show with you, every time I talk with you, I learn so much, which is why she's Coach Frankie. And it was a little odd at first for me to reach out peer to peer for a coach, but I was grateful for that. And I'm going to ask Alex Okoroji to mute because I think you are bringing in some wonderful blessing, compliments of Nigeria. So I'm going to Frankie Picasso a little bit about this.
Wow. Thank you for that. First of all, the compliment, Sandra, I appreciate it. One of the sentiments I think about in coaching, and what I've always written about in coaching and for a very long time, is that I say that I will hold the belief in you until you can take it back for yourself. Because I believe in all of the people that I've ever coached, and I believe in their dreams and their goals and all of the things, and I do believe that they can accomplish them if they want to. That's something I believe in, and so it's the same for you and me and anybody that we need to reach out to other people, and because they can see in us at times when we're not feeling it, our successes. And sometimes it's important just to write down your past successes so that you know that you've had them, you know that you know how to get them, and you can repeat them. And so when you're in those low moments, maybe that's something that everyone can do, is to look back and and maybe when you're that low you go, oh, I never had any, but you did. And so ask your friends, they'll tell you. Don't you think?
Yeah, Cathy.
Sorry, I was so busy writing down what Frankie just said. Because y'all know how I love to quote, you guys. And I just take these quotes away, and I'm so encouraged next time. But the thought that was catching my attention was they see it when we are not feeling our successes. And I have noticed that to be so true in my life, where I get discouraged. I forget what I've done that was really brilliant and wonderful and encouraging to other people. And I think, why am I even bothering? And I get discouraged. So, but once that happens, it is sort of a spiral. And that's why I think it's so important. I mean, sometimes we call this confession, but being vulnerable with each other and telling each other the truth, like I am really discouraged right now or whatever, that allows the people around us to not get sucked into that funnel themselves. And they don't have to wonder what's going on. Instead, they can really have the confidence and the lovely opportunity to encourage you. I really think vulnerability or weakness is one of the most beautiful traits in a dynamic, initiating, confident woman. To have the confidence to just say when you are not feeling it, and giving other people a chance to bless you and encourage you. I know we're doing a segment on humbling moments, and I just can't wait for that. I hope our listeners will look for that podcast as well, or that radio show, wherever it is out there on the internet, so that they can hear more about that. I think that's going to be a great segment.
You know, you said a lot, Cathy. Sometimes I wonder what do I have to add to all of the beautiful things that they've said. But I will say this though. I think it's you said something about vulnerability, and I believe a lot in being vulnerable and just being naked. The word I use is naked a lot. Yep. But it really is just exposing. Sometimes, and it takes a lot of courage to be naked. It actually takes a lot of courage to be bold and to be vulnerable and to say, you know what, I don't feel too good right now. I don't feel productive. I don't have the energy to take action. I don't feel motivated. I need help, right? And to be honest, I remember how I was feeling early this year with all the things that I was going through. I got robbed. I experienced so many bad things. And I did share in one email, it took one email with Frankie. And I said, Frankie, you know what? I feel so overwhelmed. I know we have this deadline to do this thing. Now we have all this great, huge project. But right now, I'm just so overwhelmed, right? And I'm so this. And I think that, first of all, it made her understand, sometimes when you don't share what's going on with you on the inside, it's very difficult for the people on the outside to understand why you're not taking action, why you're not being productive, why you're not taking initiative. And everyone is wondering, okay, you're not delivering. But when you're able to just put yourself in a position where you can say to them, oh, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through, then you're in support for yourself. So at that time when I said to Frankie, hey, this is how I feel. And then Frank is like, okay, you know what? How can I help? What can I do? Maybe we can talk to the other ladies. Maybe we can do this. And then she came up with all of these brilliant ideas. And then all of a sudden I started to find myself again and get back to the swing of things. So it's really important to, just find the courage to be vulnerable, right? So that we can get the support that we need so that we can, level up and become more productive.
Alex, I love that. And I think you bring up a really important point. I think as dynamic women, we find it difficult to ask for help sometimes. And asking for help is so vital. So being vulnerable is vital, but asking for help is really, really difficult. And we want to think that we can do things on our own, but over time, that we are so much better together. And that is such an important lesson to learn over life. We are better together. We are better when we collaborate. We are better when we are vulnerable. And asking for help is so vital because success does breed success.
Sorry about that. I had to sneeze so bad and I didn't want to sneeze on the air with you guys. So, I apologize for it being a minute break. I think one of these things, I just want to honor Frankie today because, we joke with each other a lot, but I look at every one of you and I think I have cried or been upset or been fully emotive for my emotional level, which isn't real high. And it's a hard thing for me to share my emotions. I know some women can just articulate really easily that they're afraid or they're sad or they're frustrated. And I have a really hard time doing that. And Cathy and Linda and Frankie and Alex, I can actually share with you guys how I really feel. I can't do that most of my life. I don't know why. I don't know, we've talked about maybe there's something broken in me. No. But the ability to be able to say, like what Alex said, as a professional woman, look, I'm overwhelmed or I'm frustrated. I can't do this. Linda Kreter, you can call me up and say, I'm frustrated because of X, Y, and Z. I'm angry because of X, Y, and Z. And, Frankie gave me these great exercises in our coaching session the other day to help me articulate what I want and what I feel. And I think there are many of us out there. Maybe it's societal, cultural, the way we were raised, in a small town where you just serve others. You don't have any wants and needs. I think there's a lot of us that carry that with us. But just the process of being able to articulate what you want. Frankie, you worked hard with me yesterday in figuring out what I want, because when you first asked me, I couldn't even answer you. But then you asked me questions, and you know what? I knew what I wanted in there. And I think this comes down to, this full circle initiative thing where if we're not feeling confident, we have to reach out and ask for help. And sometimes we need our friends to ask us questions to find out what we need. I'm just going to go to Frankie really quick. I know, Linda, you got to end the show quickly.
First of all, thank you all for for the wonderful support you've just given me. I do appreciate it. And the vulnerability that we have with one another, the trust is built over time. It's not, there in the very beginning. But we know, we're all on the same level. We're all working the same way. We're all entrepreneurs, and we all understand deadlines and all those kinds of things. And we're parents, and we get overwhelmed. And nobody's going to understand it like somebody else who's in the middle of it like we are. So it is great to be able to go to anybody and ask for help. And just a quickie, real quick, because I know Linda is going to end the show. If you were feeling very vulnerable and you're not feeling very good about yourself, do a personal 360. Reach out to 5 of your friends. Ask them to give you one word that they feel about you, one word that describes you to them. And I think that you're going to find that you're going to get similar words coming back, and it's going to make you feel really good about yourself. Quick exercise. There you go. Linda, over to you.
I love that. That's a wonderful thing to do. I find sometimes that the words of strangers that are on either social media or on a phone call or on one of my advocacy with my veterans can change my life. Mm-hmm. And I think people don't have an idea sometimes of how those phrases from out of the blue that just come to you are gifts. They are total blessings, and they can change your entire outlook and confidence and philosophy on where you are. I have I cannot recall who said this quote, but when given an opportunity, people of initiative grow their wings. They jump first and grow their wings on the way down because they know and have the faith and trust in themselves and those around them to go for it. And I think that we've talked a lot about initiative today, gumption, creativity, being vulnerable, asking for help. All of these things are so very important, and I want to make sure I thank all of you. So Alex Okoroji from Nigeria, Cathy Kravfe from East Texas, Frankie Picasso from Toronto, and Sandra Beck in Los Angeles. We are so grateful to have the benefit of talking to such amazing dynamic women. And if you like these shows, you can find more just like them on equally interesting topics at Dynamic Women Talk Radio. And we'd love to have you join us each week. And we hope you have these kinds of conversations with your own friends and family because it really matters. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great show and another set of amazing dynamic women. Make it a great week. Thank you for tuning in today to Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and join us each week. You can find more shows on dynamicwomentalkradio.com.